podcast.
What's up, guys? My name's Troy. If you don't know me, that's who I am.
All right, and we're just having conversations about things that are going on, things we may disagree about and things we agree on, stuff like that. So, since I haven't really introduced myself too much, I'm from here, born and raised. I've worked with Troy at a couple different jobs. We've known each other for a few years now. But yeah, other than that, we just want to have conversations and show people that you can have conversations with people, even if they have disagreeing views, because nowadays, everything's kind of crazy.
But yeah, first thing first, man, what's new? How you been?
Same old same, working my ass off.
Yeah. How you guys doing now that they canceled the Keystone Pipeline? You guys still pretty busy with work, or?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can get into it, we're definitely moving gas.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, and every day, producers bring on new well pads or something like that, and, we're moving a lot of gas.
Yeah, I think that's one of the crazy things that you see. Obviously, President Biden came into office, shut down the Keystone Pipeline. I did support Biden. I mean, it's been a rough go so far. I'm not afraid to admit that. So Lonnie Stevens. So first things first, I am a IBEW member. I am 4 out of 5 years through my 5-year apprenticeship. Lonnie Stevens, who is the president of the IBEW, he was part of President Biden's campaign team. And one of the things that we were kind of told as IBEW members is if we'd be willing to support President Biden, that we would have a pretty bright future to look forward to. And I don't know, now that this new bill, this Build Back Better bill is seems like it's going to did come through. I'm not exactly sure. But hopefully now that that made it through, hopefully we'll start seeing something. But so far it's not looking good. So obviously pretty much every year we get slow around this time, but so far we already have, I think, 30 guys on our books. Our local is a little over 250 guys. So right now, I think at the last union meeting a couple weeks ago, we were right around 30 journeymen on the books and 2 apprentices. So sounds like it's going to be a slow winter. Not a whole lot of work for the winter, but come springtime, we got some wind farms coming up. Some solar work. I've worked a couple solar jobs. It's been a little while since you and I have talked, so I've done a couple solar jobs, a lot of industrial electrical work and things like that. But yeah, that's kind of what we got going on so far. I don't know. We'll see what happens. How's everything on your end going since Biden came into office? Have you seen a lot of changes? Things are still going good, or?
So I think, first of all, we'll start off with anything we say is our own opinions. It doesn't reflect our employers,
absolutely,
significant others, anything like that. And I think one of the biggest things, a lot of people will say, well, them shutting down the Keystone pipeline or any of those pipelines doesn't matter because they weren't moving gas yet. But you got to look at all these investors. They saw that and they're like, oh no, we better do something now. And that's what crashed the prices in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. I know at one point during COVID, obviously, a lot of people were staying at home, not going to work. So not a lot of gas is being sold. I don't know if, the prices that we're seeing now, if that has anything to correlate with maybe some of these gas companies trying to maybe get some of that money back that they were losing, because I know that at one point oil futures were actually selling in the negative, so they were essentially having to pay people to unload the oil for them in a way. So it almost does make you wonder if now that we're seeing these spikes, if it's, something that maybe these companies are trying to recoup some of their money, or if maybe it is, more along the lines of, things are, if this is going to be the future, if this is what we're going to, continue to see going forward, if we do continue to make an attempt at moving away from, oil and gas and things of that nature.
And I'm not really worried. I mean, I welcome the progressive movement towards green energy, but they're trying to pull everything away so fast.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's especially hard in our area. I know one of the big things that I always try and communicate to people is, I think a lot of the times the policies that come from Washington, D.C. is they don't take into account, different areas of, it's like a lot of these people, they're getting a lot of their campaign fundings and everything from, obviously the Democrats or the big blue states. You got California, New York, some of the states like that. And obviously, in New York, they don't allow any drilling. They had it open for a little while. They shut it down, and it's been shut down for a long time. I'm not sure. I don't live in California. I don't know a whole lot about California. I've never worked out that way, but so I think, they try and push the left towards, these green policies, but at the same time, a lot of these people, they're not in small areas like ours where, these natural gas and oil jobs are really some of very few high paying good jobs that you can get, without having a big fancy college degree and things like that. I know a lot of the guys that we worked with are high school graduates, GEDs, things of that nature. And, you can attest to the fact you can make a good living doing what you do and, working on the rigs and things like that. I mean, it's a tough living, but it's a good living.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way I'd be where I am today without the oil field. And I understand there's a lot of criticism about it and all that, but at the same time, it's American energy. I mean, we had to beg OPEC to start producing more, and then they released strategic oil reserves, and then what does Iran and Saudi Arabia do? They cut production to account for that. So in the long run, I mean, the oil they released only will last us 2.5 days. So it's not like every president's done it. Trump did it. It doesn't work. But it's a virtue signal to everyone saying, hey, look, I'm doing something.
Right. I think another thing, and you kind of said to it a little bit too, is a lot of people seem to think that we can just make this change overnight, and that's what it seems to be like a lot of people are pushing towards, but it's not like that. The thing that a lot of people, at least in my experience and the people that I've talked to, they don't realize exactly how many things are tied to oil and gas productions and things of that nature. Like even the wind turbines and things that they want to build, like all of those moving parts, they all have to be lubricated. How's that stuff getting lubricated? Oil. How are we heating our homes? Natural gas. What are the machines running on, that are powering these plants to build solar panels, to build the parts for the wind farms, all these different things. Like, they're running on, natural gas, using oil to lubricate the machines. Like I said, some of these plants are still running on coal. And, I've worked on some of the solar jobs, and, being the green energy, one of the very first things that they do when they're coming onto these sites is a lot of these sites, in order to get a good amount of sunlight and be a good producing solar field, that means you have to go in and you got to cut down a lot of trees. You're taking out a lot of vegetation, a lot of, habitat for the animals and things like that. So it kind of really makes you question, how green really is some of these things. I have been on both sides of it at this point. We've worked together in the oil field. I know what these oil pads look like. Sometimes they get pretty crazy during production, But by the time you guys pack up and leave, and when you're going back out, you see them completed, and aside from a couple weld GPUs and a couple pipelines sticking out of the ground, they do a pretty good job, getting these things back to as absolutely close to natural as possible. And I know a lot of companies now are even taking the initiative to replant trees in different areas and stuff, where they can and when they can, compared to when a lot of these solar fields are done, they're putting up giant wooden posts and fences all around. The animals aren't coming back to that area. They're not going to be in there ever again compared to, these well paths that you go onto. Very often you go out there. I'm sure you've seen deer on them, some bears, all sorts of different things.
Oh yeah, when we replant right of ways, it's clover stuff to bring in the deer, and that's all you see up through the right of ways is deer stands. And I'm not a big hunter, but I understand put meat on the table. I love a good deer steak now and then, and all that. But I agree with the solar panels, and you can't recycle them.
Yeah, same thing with the wind turbines. I mean, they're taking them out to the Midwest and they're just burying them in the ground and hoping that a couple hundred years from now they might be gone.
Now, what do you think about solar? Or not solar, nuclear, sorry.
Honestly, I think nuclear would be a great option. It's one of the most efficient, if not the most efficient methods that there is. I mean, obviously it does have its downsides. I mean, I know a lot of people like to point back to Chernobyl and things like that. Fukushima, when things go bad, they go really bad. But when you look at the downside of that compared to a lot of other things, it's like if we can strategically place some of these plants, these nuclear plants, to make it so that not only is the risk minimal, but if something were to go catastrophically wrong, that the effects would be minimized. I know another good one, which isn't efficient everywhere, is the geothermal energy, which is actually using some of the Earth's core to heat homes and stuff like that. One of the things that we did last year in our third year classes, our teacher has us, we do 2 class presentations. We get up and, he let us pick pretty much anything related to the electrical industry or, very closely aligned to it we were able to do our presentation on, something that has to do with that. And that's what I did mine on, was different sources of energy, comparing, coal, nuclear, solar, wind, natural gas, a lot of the big main ones. And there's a lot of good options out there. But the thing is like I was saying before, with making these national policies, is what's best for our area isn't necessarily what's going to be best out in Las Vegas. Out in Las Vegas, they got the desert close by. You're getting a lot of sun out there. Absolutely. Put solar panels up, man. Put them as far as the eye can see. In the Midwest, where you got the big open plains, you got a lot of wind blowing across the plains, put up wind farms, man. That's a great idea. That gives a lot of those people good paying jobs. Along the coast, you got, the ocean. That I think that hydroelectricity is one that really I think we could stand to benefit from more research from, because I think if we were to use the ocean and the rivers and things of that nature to harness more electricity, I think that would be a good clean way to potentially move in that direction, which obviously that only works for areas that have an ocean or a large body of water nearby. But up here in our area, we have great natural gas. It's like I said before, it's a lot of good high paying jobs, but people just get so caught up in the fact of this is what we want to do and we want to do it right now. And we get so caught up in that that we don't take the time to stop and think and do studies on what's really going to be best for these specific areas. And so I think that we could stand to see some changes in Washington, D.C. when it comes to those things. Is, a lot of these people that are down there making the policies and passing these laws, they've never spent a day in the oil field. They've never walked a single solar farm. They don't know the first thing about a wind turbine. They have no clue. They're just basically doing the bidding of whoever will pay them the most money. And I think that that's a big thing that we should obviously try and work towards in our country as well, because some of these campaign contributions and things of that nature are just astronomical and getting out of control. Part of electing representatives is the representative that you elect are supposed to do what's best for the people in your area, and we are just flat out not seeing that right now.
Definitely not. And to go right along with, Washington, D.C., this money comes from the federal government, goes to the state, and, it never goes anywhere. It just sits there. I mean, they're sitting on money from the COVID stuff forever now. And, I think that's one of the biggest things is you got to start local now and make that grassroots organization. You got to get people who actually care. These politicians who have been in power for years and years, they don't care. They're making money no matter what. Most of them are millionaires, They
weren't millionaires before they got there either.
No. No. Because, what's the standard salary of, I think they get, 280-some thousand a year in the house?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere right around there.
And, granted, they invest their money. There's rumors both sides, they know what's coming. So they can make their trades really easy, and they know what to do. You can get online and watch this stuff, and there's people who've made a killing following Nancy Pelosi's trades and stuff like that. But
her and her husband, they dumped a bunch of stocks and things like that before they found out that the federal shutdown was coming. They were able, dump that stock off and buy something, in one of these big companies that are able to keep going, which that's another thing that I don't understand. Like this, obviously, I understand that when all this COVID stuff happened, there's certain things in certain industries that they're essential to America, same way as the essential workers had to keep going. But some of the things that blow my mind are, some of these airline companies is they're making record profits in the billions year after year after year. But as soon as we're shut down for 2 weeks or a month, they have to start getting hundreds of millions of dollars dumped into them by the federal government. What happened to all that money that you had in profit? That's after everybody's paid, all your expenses are paid, everything is taken care of, profit, money in the bank. And, you have nothing to show for it after a month. I get it. Some of these places, they got workers to pay and, you got to keep your equipment running, but billions of dollars, like that's not chump change. You know what I mean? That's
the thing. The average person can't quantify what $1 billion is, because $1 million, I could see $1 million in my account. I make decent money. I know how much $1 million is, but $1 billion, that's insane. I heard someone the other day explain it like, if Jeff Bezos goes out and buys a jet for $40 million. That's like you going to McDonald's and buying a couple of McDoubles. It's hard to quantify how much money they can spend. And granted, they made that money. They're successful, rather their parents helped them do it. They kept it going, and I agree they should pay their fair share in taxes. And I think that message gets lost. Eat the rich and all that. Like, understand, you got to think they're successful. How many people do they employ?
Right.
Like Amazon, like I've heard bad things, I've heard good things about Amazon, but they're a huge company. Some of my stuff I bought on Amazon, man, and it's like, I don't want to support something like that, but at the same time, I can't get stuff.
Yeah, what other option do you have?
Exactly.
You know, some of these places you're gonna go, it's like you can buy it, from them, and you're kind of supporting something that you don't really believe, or you know, you can go to maybe one of these smaller mom and pop shops, but you're on the hook for almost double the amount of money. And I know a lot of people are, you know, they're living paycheck to paycheck, man. You know, I think I don't know the exact numbers, so I don't quote me on it, but I believe it was somewhere in, you know, the upper 70% of families wouldn't have the financial ability for a $600 or more emergency right now, which that's crazy. Like if your refrigerator goes out and you got kids at home and you couldn't pay to go out and buy a new fridge to make sure that your food and you know your meats and your cheese and your milk and everything like that that you need to keep your family fed is going to go to waste because you can't afford to go out and get a new fridge this week. Like there's something wrong. There's something really, really wrong. Like we are living in a time where the amount of wealth in the world is literally unimaginable. You know, you made a Facebook post just earlier, and I commented on it. Like the U.S. is somewhere in the range of close to $24 trillion in debt right now, and that continues to grow. But, you know, if somebody like you and I, or imagine if we had just $2.4 million in debt and we were trying to grow that every year, you know, or we miss you miss two payments on your vehicle, or you miss two payments on your house. They're coming to take that. They're not letting you add on more to that. They're saying, nope, we're taking that. We don't care if you live, you know, we don't care where you live. We don't care what you drive. That does, you know, things like that don't even concern them. It's almost like all the humanity of it has gone out the window. And for what? You know what? How are we better because of this?
Yeah. And most of the people in the House or the Senate or even the president, because it's always going to be someone who's older. I don't know what the average age is, but I'd say it's pushing mid-50s.
I would say it's probably even higher than that.
And they're never going to have to deal with these problems. It's going to be us. And we're going to have to I mean, I make more money now than both my parents put together when I was growing up. Granted, I have two brand new vehicles. But, you know, I should still have a little bit more leeway. I mean, by all means, I'm not really living paycheck to paycheck. But, you know, if something huge comes up, like next week I'm going to the dentist getting a bunch of teeth pulled and all that. You know, that's $4,600 I had to cough up. Thank God I have an HSA. I can put pre-tax money in. But, you know, insurance is another thing. Health insurance, you pay your premiums, and then you go to the hospital, and they want more money.
Yeah, I was just telling somebody the story of so not this Thanksgiving that just passed, but the Thanksgiving before. My wife and I, we got put on the quarantine orders or whatever because we were exposed to somebody who had COVID, which that's a whole different beast in itself. But couple weeks past that, so I never tested, but my wife and Ada both tested, and I think Ada's was negative and Katie's came back inconclusive, or you know, whatever. Either way, it wasn't positive. So then a couple weeks later, after we had that big snowstorm, you know, I spent a lot of time outside trying to move snow, blow snow, plow snow, everything else. I live on a private road. We're responsible for taking care of all of that stuff ourselves. So I spent a lot of time outside, and I hadn't been around anybody because I had been quarantined. I had been back to work for a matter of a couple days, and the guy that I was working with, his wife worked in a nursing home, so they're doing above and beyond the measures, and this is back at the point where they're getting tested all the time. Their family members are getting tested
twice a week.
Yeah, all the time. So, you know, I know that I'm not around anybody that has COVID, but I'm having some troubles breathing. I'm coughing up some nasty stuff now and then. So, my wife, she's a nurse. You know my wife. So she says, well, why don't you see if you can make an appointment with the doctor? And so I told her, and the same thing that I told them when I called to make the appointment. I haven't been around anybody that has COVID. I've been on quarantine. My daughter tested negative. My wife's good. Everything is fine. I know that COVID isn't the issue. That's not what's going on here. So, I say I don't even want to have, and also they're only doing the Tele-Doc appointments at this point. And I'm saying I don't want to do this because I know exactly what they're going to tell me. The only thing that they're going to tell me is that it's a COVID symptom, so they're going to want me to get tested for COVID, and I know that that's not what it is, and it's at the very best I would get tested for COVID. This was back when tests were still taking 3 days. So that's 3 days of prolonging my symptoms. And then at best, maybe if they could fit me in the next day, at that point, I might be able to get treatment. And she's like, well, you never know. Just do the Tele-Doc appointment and see what happens. So I was like, okay. The Tele-Doc appointment was maybe 15 minutes long. I think of that 15 minutes, I spent 3 minutes probably max talking to the doctor, for the doctor to tell me that the best that he could do for me was schedule a COVID test, and if the results came back negative, that maybe then that they could try and fit me in then. So that's like, if I have something seriously wrong, that's 3 days of prolonging treatment, or whatever it might be. And then, so after all that, I didn't go take the COVID test or whatever. I got some over-the-counter medicine, and luckily a few days later, I got feeling better and everything was fine. But then you get the bill, and the bill's like over $200, and we have decent insurance. It's,
Oh yeah.
I don't want to lie and say it's top of the line, but it's pretty good. And to have a bill that's still over $200 to speak on, not even something like this, but over, digitally with a doctor for 3 minutes, even benefit of the doubt, even if it was 15 minutes, like what am I paying you that for? Plus my insurance is going to pay you money on top of that. Like for what? You offered me literally nothing. You checked nothing. You did nothing. You gave me no solutions, nothing. Like what am I paying you for? So the thing that blows my mind is, healthcare is one of the few industries where you can receive absolute garbage service and treatment and still be on the hook for astronomical amounts of money. Like how do they get away with that?
Yeah, it's crazy. My wife works at the hospital, and the same way, she tested positive for COVID, and of course, through work, still to this day, we do a questionnaire every day. Were you in contact with me? Blah, blah, blah. And I put yes then. And we had a call from our HR in Texas. And they're like, well, you have to go take a test. And I was like, well, I already went and took a rapid test, came back negative. And they're like, no, I'll set you up an appointment. And I was like, all right, do I have to quarantine? And of course, I work alone. I drive. So they're like, no, you don't have to quarantine at home unless it's a positive, and then we'll have to go from there. And it's like, I never ended up with COVID. I tested negative. She only lost her sense of taste and smell just for a little bit. And, I've got sick since then, and I've been in the hospital, and surprisingly, they didn't test me for COVID. They just gave me some medicine, said I had an ear infection and a sinus infection and stuff. And, I got some antibiotics for that. But I remember talking to my neighbor, and, I wouldn't say he's a conspiracy theorist, but, he's like, oh, COVID's not that bad. And he just got it, and he was super sick. And
Yeah.
I've never been like, oh, COVID doesn't exist. And, like, it's overblown a little bit. And I think with the vaccine mandates now, they're reaching a little bit. I mean, obviously, I'm not a doctor.
Right.
I didn't even finish high school. I have a GED. But, I can't see them reaching into your life and changing your life for something. Like, most of these peer studies aren't coming out till 2025.
Right.
And I'm vaccinated against a lot of stuff. But for me, I don't see where my risk is especially if I can still pass it, get sick. People have
Right.
died with the vaccine. My wife's vaccinated. You know, if it comes down to it, I would, but at the same time, I don't really see the point. You're vaccinated?
I am. So the first things first is right to get it out of the way. I don't want to downplay COVID at all because it can be very, very serious under the right circumstances. The guy that I'm working with right now, him and his family are unvaccinated. His dad was just about to turn 69 years old. His dad ended up with COVID, by the time they got him to the hospital and started receiving treatment, he died a week later with COVID pneumonia. So, there is obviously, there's some severity to it. But the thing is, if we are the land of the free, which is what America claims to be, is we can't be out here telling people that they have to get this vaccination. If anything, trying to force these people, threaten them that they're going to lose their insurance or they're going to lose their job or, they're threatening them with anything is just flat out wrong. And if anything, I think it sends a wrong message. And I think it just disencourages it that much more because it like, what kind of message does that send compared to if we are just honest with people and we tell them, like, look, this is the way things are going. If you are a child, a young adult, a healthy middle-aged person, your risk isn't really that high. But for the older people, which is part of the reason why I'm vaccinated, is both of my wife's grandmothers are still alive, and I have a young daughter, that goes around those grandparents almost every weekend. So, in order to keep them safe, because if they were to get sick, they are in, the high probability of potentially getting sick and dying. So because of that, I made the decision to get vaccinated. But if you're not in that situation, I don't, it's not my place to tell you what you should put into your body. Regardless of what vaccines you've had before that or, what requirements you've had, like, this thing is new, first of all. And I mean, coronaviruses themselves aren't new. And we've been doing studies on them for a while now, which is part of where the lab leak conspiracy comes from. Whether I say conspiracy, I don't know if it's conspiracy, and I think a lot of things point to the fact that that is a very real probability, is that it actually was leaked from a lab over in Wuhan. But if you're not gonna be around somebody that is in a high risk category, and you yourself aren't in a high risk category, you're your own person, man. It's the land of the free. You're more than welcome to make your own educated decision on what you think is best. But obviously, not everybody feels the same way that I do, and obviously, some of these mandates are still very real. But I was just curious to how do you feel about the mandates? Have they affected you at all, or?
So our company did send out an email and said basically if the OSHA mandate goes through, they're going to follow the law. Obviously, they didn't say they're not going to try to take it to court or anything like that. But our insurance did impose, because our company's self-insured, which I think most big companies are. They pay it, and then the insurance company just kind of is the middleman kind of deal. But they actually imposed a surcharge of $1,500 a year if you're not vaccinated, because it costs more. But I mean, you can look at Guthrie's webpage right now. There's people in Guthrie right now that are vaccinated, hospitalized, on a ventilator. And I don't want to downplay it either. It's a serious thing. I've seen people get very, very sick from it. But at the same time, like you said, why are they going to force us? And this isn't about your freedom. I'm always taken back to frogs boiling in a pot. If you throw frogs in a boiling pot of water, they're going to jump out. But if you put them in the cold water and then turn on the heat, they're not even going to notice. They're just going to die.
Right.
And, you know, our rights are getting eroded, and, like, we're land of the free. And it just feels like, where does it stop if we keep giving so much power back? And the whole thing with 2A and all that. And obviously, I'm conservative, but I might take it a little bit further and say I'm libertarian. You know, we're not doing enough to help ourselves, but yet we're sending all these vaccines, all this money to everyone else when they can't even get the messaging right in this country.
Right.
You know, and it was bad from the beginning when, you know, when Trump was in office and they're like, oh, don't take Trump's vaccine, it's going to kill you and all this. And then as soon as they get in there, like, you need to take it now.
Right. We're going to force you to take it if you're not willing to take it.
Yeah, and, you know, all the establishment politicians, Democrats, Republicans, they don't care about us.
Absolutely.
They care about their pockets. And that's the thing that people are missing nowadays. Like, no, everyone's too busy fighting with each other to understand that, hey, this is what's going on. It's the government. And that's the scariest thing. Oh, the government's going to help us.
Yeah.
You know, anything the government touches that turns into some big thing, and, you know, you have to be this and that, and, like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, I do lean left on some things. I definitely don't think of myself as really a liberal. Definitely not the extreme liberal that they like to paint the picture of now. Like, I own guns. I am one of those people that I think it would be a pretty good idea for there being at least one gun in pretty much every household. You know, I don't think that's a terrible idea, as long as you are, you know, if you were to be trained on that weapon, have some, you know, some sort of familiarity with that weapon. Obviously, I don't think we should just be putting guns in everybody's hand, in anybody's hands. You know, you have to be of sound mind and judgment and physically capable and mentally capable of, you know, doing and performing the responsibilities that come along with owning a weapon. But I mean, as far as this, you know, banning AR-15s and, you know, all this crazy shit that they talk about now is like, for what, man? Like what really is that going to accomplish? I mean, there's a lot. I'm pretty sure if you're a felon, at least like what's the word?
A non-violent offender?
Yeah, so if you are a violent offender, I'm pretty sure if you're a violent felon, I don't think you're allowed to own a firearm, which is probably for the best. Yeah. But, I mean, look at a lot of these repeat offenders that are being charged with gun crimes and crimes that have to do with a firearm. Like, a lot of them have already been convicted at one point, and they've still found their way to get their hands on another weapon. So, you know, it's evident that what we're doing isn't working, and trying to ban our way into a solution isn't going to work. You know, it sucks because obviously I think something does need to be done, because we're seeing an uptick in you know, gun crimes and school shootings and things of that nature. But I am in the crowd of believers that this country has a severe mental health crisis that isn't being addressed. You know, I know for the longest time, you know, even, and I'm pretty young, I'm only 27 years old. And even when I was younger, you know, mental health was a taboo subject. Like, you didn't want to be on antidepressants or anxiety medicine or anything like that, because you're thought of as a crazy person. But the things that are going on in this country and the way that we're being forced to live, it is causing psychological issues with a lot of people. And it's not really being addressed. And, you know, these people are being pushed to the brink, to the point where they feel like their only option left is to grab a gun and go and shoot up a place. Like that. It shouldn't get to that point. I mean, and I would say at least 95% of cases, there are warning signs before you get to that point. And there's going to be more than one in most cases. So there's a lot of things that have to be ignored for you to pick up a gun, a rifle, a shotgun, a pistol, whatever weapon it is that you might choose to go in and you know, shoot up a place and kill multiple people. You know, you can very easily get on the news and read the history on some of these people. You know, the signs were there. You know, counselors have made efforts and social workers have made efforts, and you know, there's been cries for help that have gone unanswered before they finally got to that point. You know, and I don't know, it's tough because I don't think that I don't think that we want to take kids away from their parents, but if these kids are in a known abusive household, whether it be sexually abusive, mentally abusive, physically abusive, like, we have to make sure that we're getting these kids out of these situations before it turns into something a lot worse, whether it be 5 days from now, 5 years from now, 15 years from now, or 50 years from now. You know, this psychological trauma that's going on and being left untreated is causing, you know, it doesn't, in a lot of cases, it's not just affecting that person. It's going to affect their kids. It's going to affect their kids. You know, it's going to cause a chain chain reaction of events that are going to make it worse. You know, so if a social worker goes and says, hey, I think this kid should be removed from this home, he's being beaten and everything else, and it's not a safe environment, and, you know, they decide to leave this kid in this abusive environment, and the next day this kid grabs a gun and goes and shoots up a whole school, at that point we went from just negatively affecting potentially that child by removing him from his home, which I think in most cases it's not gonna be, because, you know, he's experiencing trauma at home. But at this point, we've just opened it up to how many other families experiencing a crazy traumatic event because we weren't willing to do it with one. So now, you know, 15, 20, 30 other families are now affected because this kid finally snapped and took a gun to school and, you know, killed 15 other kids. You know, that's brothers, sisters, moms, dads, grandparents, you know, everybody close to these kids are now affected and have lost somebody that they loved and care about because we're not willing to do it in a handful of cases.
Yeah, this last shooting with the kid, I forget where it is. I didn't read too much on it, but from what I read, the school knew the day before that he had made threats. And, you know, schools are state-mandated reporters. They're supposed to, you know, call that stuff out, and they didn't. And the next day he comes in and shoots a bunch of people. And they arrested his parents, too. Yeah. And, like, his parents knew. His mom texted him and said, no, don't do it. So she knew he was planning it, and she didn't do anything.
Well, not only that, the kid had gotten in trouble at school for looking up, like, sale of ammunition or something along those lines. And, you know, once the school alerted the parents were texting him as well saying, I'm not mad that you did it. I'm mad that you got caught.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, we got to do something here.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm sure that we probably share different opinions on the Rittenhouse case, but you know, that was at the time of what happened. That's a 17-year-old kid with a rifle in his hands. I mean, I know how I was at 17. Like the last thing. I mean, even with the best of intentions, like I went to BOCES for criminal justice. You know, at one point in my life, like I wanted to grow up and potentially be a police officer. And even then, at 17 years old, with a riot going on, putting a rifle in somebody's hands, a 17-year-old kid's hands, I don't know, man. Obviously, the charges that he was being charged with, I think that the outcome was correct. But I think had the prosecution done its job correctly, I think that he should have probably at least been looking at a manslaughter charge at best. But
No, my biggest thing with that, and I know everyone goes crazy, and I think, people on the right go super crazy about it, like, yeah, he shouldn't have been out there. He's even said now in interviews he's done since he's been out, which I'm mixed on because he gets out and he's just going crazy on all these interviews,
Right.
which, whatever, he lost a year of his life. He was in jail for, 85 days. And, I can see where you're coming from. He shouldn't have been out there. Nobody should have been out there
Exactly.
in the beginning. And everyone starts going for these charges, Rosenbaum and, Huber and Grosswitz. It doesn't matter what they did.
right.
It,
Allowing a 17-year-old kid to be judge, jury, and executioner isn't right in my eyes.
yeah. And if he's there to help someone, he probably shouldn't have taken a gun with him. I can understand wanting to have something to protect himself, but at the same time,
If you're the thing that I don't understand is if you're going with good intentions, what do you need a gun for?
yeah,
And why is it, and this is one of the things that I don't understand, is why are we to a point where we value material things more than we value human lives and justice? Because obviously, I don't think that this looting and burning and everything like that is a good productive way to show that you're upset with the way that things turn out. But like you said before, with the Second Amendment, there's an amendment that comes before that, which is the First Amendment, which is freedom of speech and freedom to assemble. When things aren't going the way that they should be going, the way throughout history, at least the history of America, the way that we've changed them is by going out, gathering up, and showing, hey, we're not going to stand for these things. And obviously, a handful of people sometimes get out of control, and, there's always going to be scumbags. There's scumbags in every profession, every city, every place. There's always going to be bad people. But, allowing these bad people to take away from the reason that all the good people were there to start with, and then on top of that, valuing the material things more than the human lives is it's just hard for me to fathom. It's easy to look at it through a closed lens, but I think the entirety of the situation is a lot more complex than I think a lot of people are willing to look at it from.
oh yeah, and depending on who you watch, you only see one side the
Yeah.
entire trial. The left side wasn't even covering the rebuttals or the closing arguments of the defense, and same way on the other side. I watched Rakita Law on YouTube, and they live streamed the trial. There was usually 8 to 10 lawyers in there at all times, and they were definitely based for sure.
Right.
But a lot of them were self-defense attorneys, and the way you look at it through law, it was self-defense.
Absolutely.
It wasn't right what he was doing. He shouldn't have put himself in that situation.
Right.
I can understand he had family there. His dad used to live there, owned a business there and all that. But then, the prosecutors come in and lie to everybody. And then the shop owners come in and lie to everyone.
Right.
They had pictures with these people. And I don't know. It's a tough situation. It's tore a lot of people apart. I know
Right.
I got a little bit crazy there for a while. And it's just when I saw people posting, he shot and killed 3 people. I'm like, how much of the story do you actually know? And then, of course, you corrected yourself.
Right.
And I was like, I can see in the heat of the moment with everything going on. I mean, you're getting attacked just real quick. And I was like, man, it tore a lot of people apart.
Oh, yeah.
I know my mother-in-law actually had commented on it, and someone had told me about it. And I was just like, all right, I'm going to stay away from that on Thanksgiving. Let's not go there.
Yeah, I know there was people commenting on it that told me that I was fucked up and everything else, and it's like, man, if you own a business, you are at least as far as I know, you're forced to carry insurance on that business. So if, you own a car lot in Elmira, which, I say Elmira because that would be about the distance that he went. So say that my dad owned a used car lot in Elmira and they were rioting in Elmira, and I were to go to Elmira with a rifle to try and defend this car lot. It's like, for what, man? Like, like if something goes that far south, like, one, you're in a bad position, but not only that, your business should have the insurance that if they decide to steal the cars or light the cars on fire or whatever else, is that not what the insurance is for? Is to cover something, something like that happening?
And to me, one of the things about that trial was, him being called to help at that dealership didn't really mean anything. He wasn't there most of the night.
Right.
He was out helping people. And granted, I don't imagine many people took him up because he's running around with a gun.
Right.
Which, I believe everyone has their right. 17, he's right there on the edge.
Right.
And the law is super murky there, too. And if it happened in New York, guess what? I wouldn't have a rifle up there.
Yeah.
Because I live in Pennsylvania. I don't have any 10-round mags. I only have 30s and 60s. But regardless, I understand what you're saying. And I don't think you should be protecting property with a rifle. That's what insurance is for. From what I understood, a lot of the insurance up there in Kenosha had clauses in there about arson. It didn't cover arson. So, I mean, it sucks.
Right.
And I understand, but that's one of those things, it should have never happened. And there's so many people who are opportunistic, and they were just there to cause trouble.
Absolutely.
On both sides.
That's going to be in everywhere. People, there's always, like I said before, there's scumbags everywhere, and they're always going to be looking to try and seize on an opportunity. And I think that's another thing that people try and use that to take away from, like, the BLM movement and things like that. When a lot of these people, I can't speak. I can't speak for everybody because I don't know. I can only go off the things that I see and I read. But, there's a couple people that have used the BLM movement to try and turn a profit and do negative things. But the majority of the people that are there because they're sick of seeing black people gunned down in the streets, killed by cops when, white people aren't getting that treatment. And there are a lot of videos, like, you can get on YouTube right now of, white people running away from cops, having guns and mental issues. And, look at that kid that he went in and shot up that black church. Yeah. He walked out of there perfectly fine.
Yeah. If I remember right, they even stopped and got him a cheeseburger or something like that.
Yeah, something along.
Some crazy story that.
Yeah, something along those lines. I mean, so, it's, I don't know. It's there's definitely things that we could be doing to try and make these things better, but grouping all of these people together, an entire movement together based on the negative actions of a few is just such an easy scapegoat of not addressing issues that we're having in this country, because these things are happening and they do continue to happen. Like, that was not the first time that issue has arose. And it's like I said, I said it before, I'll say it again. It's just crazy to me that we are to a point that we are valuing material things more than another human's life, just because of what they believe or what political party they're a part of, and things of that nature. When part of what is supposed to make America great is the ability to disagree but still be able to live together, still be community members, and still help each other. Like, I have a lot of friends that are, they're on the conservative side of things. That, on a lot of issues, I disagree with them, but I don't think they're bad people. They've had different life experiences than I've had. That's caused them to think differently of people. And if you have, a couple bad experiences with, a group of black people, it's easy to think in your mind that all black people are like that. Or if you have a bad experience with a group of Mexican people, it's easy to think that all Mexican people are bad. Same way as I'm sure they probably feel about white people. They see a couple white kids go in and shoot up a school. Like, it's easy to think that every white kid is going to be a school shooter, but that's not the case, man. There's bad people everywhere in every profession, in every different walk of life. And I think we really need to stop grouping everybody based on the actions of a couple bad ones.
Yeah, because if I agree with the premise of BLM. The organization itself it's probably just infiltrated. But if you look at any of these protests, what's the main thing you see? Liberal college students out there, white college students. I agree. There's bad people on both sides. I mean, I've been called racist when I used to bartend and bounce down at Rocks because I had to kick a black man out because he was selling cocaine out of the bathroom. And I got called racist for that. But two of his brothers are members at the fire department, and I'd go into a burning building with either of them any days and trust them with my life. I mean, there's bad people on both sides, families. I mean,
yeah,
my family's a fucking mess, okay?
Yeah, mine, dude. So,
I mean, and everyone gets carried away, and they think, well, he's like that, so must be everyone he hangs out with is like that. And nobody has conversations like this where, we can talk about it. We both agree on the premise of self-defense, but, Rittenhouse shouldn't have been there.
Right.
Nobody should have been there.
Exactly.
What sparked that, don't reach for a knife or a gun. Like, I'm not one of those guys who's going to come out and say, if the cop tells you to do something, do it. But at the same time, for your own safety, you
probably should.
Yeah. Figure it out later. You don't want, especially nowadays, cops are on edge.
Oh, yeah.
I've talked to a couple cops, and, they're like, I'm afraid to pull people over because what if something happens? It doesn't matter what I do. I'm going to get in trouble for it.
But I think that there also has to be a line that we draw where if you're that scared to go to work every day, maybe that's not the profession for you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you pull over a black person and you're immediately scared of that person based on their skin tone, just walking up and seeing them, and you already have your hand on your gun just because that guy's black, you haven't said a single word to him yet, maybe that's not the profession for you, man. Maybe it's time to figure something else out, and same thing we already said. There's bad people everywhere, man. There's bad cops. Sometimes you have a bad day. Sometimes you wake up and you're in a shit mood, and something rubs you the wrong way, and it's easy, man. It's when there's a camera on everything, it's easy to look like a bad guy pretty quick.
Oh, yeah, because you could edit out this video and make either of us sound like a fucking piece of shit.
Oh, I'm sure,
and
man.
Everyone just sees one little clip of something, and they don't see the whole picture, and that's the biggest thing. You watch the news today, you only get one side, and you get it from both sides, left, right, anyone, Yeah, I mean, you only see bad parts of the bill they're trying to pass, Build Back Better. There's good stuff in there, there's bad stuff in there.
Right.
Most of the people voting on it probably haven't even fucking read the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
well, a lot of these, even back with the COVID bills, it's like they're they're taking something that is like, okay, we have this good idea. American people are hurting. Let's do something to get money out to them. So it starts with that, and then now suddenly, like, we're grouping in things that have.
What about my special interest group?
Yeah, it's like you start grouping in things that have absolutely nothing to do with how this originally started and what this was originally supposed to be about, but you're not going to vote for it unless it has your specific thing in there that you want. Like, I don't know. That it doesn't sit right with me. It's like, let's make a bill for one thing, let's make a bill for another thing, and if it does correlate, okay, maybe then we can talk about putting it in the same bill. But when you're having multiple hundreds of pages going inside these bills, and then you're voting, you get it that night and you're voting on it at 11 a.m., 9 a.m. the next day, there's no way, even if you have a good team, there is no way that you're going to be able to go through that and figure out exactly what everything is and what it's going for and make a good, educated decision on whether or not you actually support that. But because of the political climate and the way that it is now and the way the funding is and the campaign contributions and everything else is, like I said before, people are getting these representatives are, I don't know, I don't want to say it's being forced, because in a lot of cases I don't think it's being forced. I think it's they're aligning with their special interest groups that are going to give them what it is that they're looking for, and then they're going to do whatever is in the best interest of their special interest group to continue to get the things that they want to receive from it, which is, I don't know, it's a problem in my eyes. But if obviously I'm not in that situation, I don't know, but they're making a pretty good living as it is. So, I mean, it's greed, really. It's what it comes down to, is like, how much do you really need? And, how far are you willing to go to get that, I guess.
And along with the special interest groups and stuff, like, I understand we need to push our social programs further, but they're trying to push everything all at once.
Right.
They don't understand, hey, yes, $15 an hour for a McDonald's worker. I mean, that was never meant. You're not meant to make a living off that. It's more for students and stuff. And I know we might disagree about that, because every job should pay a livable wage.
So is that the case? Or, I mean, I'm sure you've been to McDonald's during a lunch rush. Kids are in school during lunch. I still want a quick bite to eat sometime at lunchtime. Should those people be forced to work 3 jobs and never see their kids? Just because it's looked upon shamefully, but yet we're, the same people that look upon it shamefully are still gonna pull up to the drive-through. Obviously, as a high school kid, you probably shouldn't be making $15 an hour to work at McDonald's, because that's, I don't think that's what it's for. But
remember how stupid I was with my money.
Yeah, but at the same time, when you pull up to the breakfast window, or you pull up to the lunch window, or you pull up during the dinner rush, what do you think would happen if you didn't have these experienced managers and at least an experienced worker or two, and you're trying to get through a McDonald's dinner rush? You worked there at, while you were in school.
4
right?
years, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, what do you think would happen had you not had a good manager, experienced worker?
I mean, the managers make decent money there. The owner actually paid decently well, and she was trying to make changes, but I mean, I can agree, but at the same time, you just jumped the prices up. Now, have you been at McDonald's since they did the remodel?
Oh yeah, the prices at McDonald's are crazy.
Oh, they have the self-order kiosk now.
You're paying at least $10 for a Big Mac meal that is not worth $10.
Oh, I remember the one time I went and got a Big Mac. There's no meat on it. And I understand it's a stressful job. Right. I worked there for 4 years, and I busted my ass. It gets hard at times, but at the same time, if I guess my biggest thing is, if you want to make more money, get a skill. Look, Did you go to college for electrical?
No, sir.
All right. You join the union, and what do? They pay for you to learn.
Right.
And how many people do they accept a year in the program?
I think my class has 11 people. Mine's one of the bigger size ones. I mean, there's a couple that are bigger. There's a couple that are smaller, but I mean, there's more trades, obviously. But
Oh yeah.
but the thing is it's. I think that comes back to what I said before is if we push everybody out of the door to do those jobs, what happens when you pull up to the lunch rush and everybody went and got a job? You know, like it's, you know, I don't think that there is any job that you should be forced. I don't want to say forced, but I don't think there's any job that you should accept that you should have to go to work and not be able to at least be able to support your family. You know, whether that be an electrician, a fry cook, a waitress, whatever that is, man. I think every single person in this country, on this planet, and anywhere should, if they have kids, they should be able to go to work, come home, spend time with their kids, feed their kids, have a roof over their kids' head, you know, and be able to provide. Obviously, I don't think you should work at McDonald's and drive a Ferrari, but you should be able to work at McDonald's and have a decent family car and, you know, a decent house and, you know, make a decent living without having to never see your kids and, you know, work a crazy amount of hours and burn yourself out just for the sake of doing it. But I that comes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier, where you have, you know, these corporations and CEOs and everybody else that they're making millions and millions of dollars. And I mean, I'm sure their job is stressful at times, but also how many of these CEOs are playing 3 rounds of golf a week? Why, you know, there's people that are in their corporate structure that are literally not eating because they want to make sure that their kids eat instead.
Yeah, for sure. And I can see where you're coming from on that. And I guess I never, even when I worked there, I knew I had higher aspirations. I didn't want to work there. I mean, a manager job didn't sound bad for a while, but I guess I'm more of a hands-on person. It wasn't for me. I can understand someone, you know, they want to be a manager. They want to do that at fast food, and I don't think they should be looked down on either.
Right.
I mean, I consume a lot of fast food. I feel like crap afterwards. I don't think it's something that, you know, especially lately. I mean, you can DoorDash whatever you want to your house.
Right.
And people aren't cooking at home because you go to the grocery store. It costs you more to make food there. So it's like, balance it out.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, it's like if you are, you know, working a lot of hours. So I think another thing that goes untalked about is if you look back as even maybe as little as 50 years ago, like you were able to, like you would be able to go to work and do your job, and you would be able to have a house, have a car, be able to take your kids out for a movie now and then, or to go bowling, or, you know, not have to not pay this bill this month to make sure that this one's paid and then catch back up on the other one next month, or, you know, have to not pay bills to buy Christmas presents or things like that. Not that long ago, like you were able to do that on one salary. So, you know, in a lot of cases, the man would go to work and the woman would stay home and take care of the kids. And obviously I'm not sexist. Like if you're a woman and you want to go to work, absolutely, more power to you. I think that you should, and I think that you should get paid the same to do it as your male counterparts, because a lot of times women are pretty good at their job, if not better than their male counterparts, and the pay doesn't really equate to that. But you know, back to what I was saying, you know, so you would be able to support them on one salary, and now even with 2 people working, is in a lot of cases, you're still barely getting by because a lot of people, if you want these better jobs, if you don't want to work at McDonald's or whatever in school, they'll tell you, well, just go to college and you'll be able to get a better job. So these people say, oh yeah, well, these teachers and guidance counselors, they told me to go to college, so I went to college to get a good job, and now I'm $100,000 in debt. And now you're, with the interest rates and everything like that, if you're making minimum payments, you'll be lucky to pay that off by the time that you die. And it's like, it wasn't like that for them back then. Like, tuition rates have gone absolutely skyrocketing. And another thing that it comes back to too is, like, with everything else, if you file for bankruptcy because you can't pay it, like, you're going to take a hit on your credit report and everything like that. But you're gonna kind of, in a way, get a clean slate.
Yeah.
But they have lobbied the people in Washington D.C. where now, even if you file for bankruptcy, your student loans aren't included in that. So even if you were able to wipe out everything else and you still had $100,000 in student loan debt, after you file for bankruptcy and potentially destroy your life, you still have $100,000 in student loan debt.
Oh yeah, we worked with someone who went to Penn State.
Yeah.
And he got a degree, and I think he said he was up to like $150,000 in student debt. And now he works in a different industry, making more money than he would have, but still. And then I know someone else who, she made a GoFundMe online to buy a new car because she couldn't afford it. And then she just bought the car, and she said, and I still have money in my account. And guess what? I ain't paying my student loans. And it's like, I can understand a certain fact. Everyone's pushing you to go to college.
Right.
But make that decision for yourself.
Right.
I didn't go to college. You didn't go to college. I mean.
But I also knew that I had a hard time getting through high school as it was, not because I was dumb, just because I didn't like going home and doing schoolwork. When I was done with school, I wanted to be done with school. And I have homework now, but I was 7 years ish removed from high school, and I knew that I wanted to do something different, and that this is what it would take to meet that requirement. But I mean, not everybody can do what I do, because I'm getting my schooling paid for if I'm willing to give up 5 years, but I work at least 40 hours a week, and then I have class 2 nights a week, and I'm able to do that because my wife works a job that allows her to have our daughter in the evenings, where if she didn't have that job and wasn't in that position, I might not be able to go through this apprenticeship and do those things. So there's sacrifices that are made there as well, to do that. But it just, I don't know, it just comes back to what we were saying in the beginning. Is it's crazy to me that this is where we're at with the times being the way they are, the amount of wealth that there is, and everything else, that this is what the average human in America is experiencing.
Right.
But when it comes time and the banks need bailed out, and the car corporations and the housing market and the people on Wall Street, when they all need a bailout, who do they turn to? It comes out of us every time, man, every time. But we keep getting stomped on and pushed further and further and further down. The middle class has never been smaller. Like the lower, the middle class bar keeps getting lower and lower and lower and lower. I don't know if the goal is to just push us all into poverty to the point where we're all forced to rely on these federal programs, and we wind up like a communist China or what it is. But left, right presidents, I mean, it's been on this trajectory for years, regardless of who is in office. I think that, I don't know for sure, but I think you're a Trump supporter. And part of his tax plan gave a pretty substantial cut to millionaires and billionaires. And I mean, working people got a little bit more money, but I know, like people that are in the trade unions and stuff like that, we used to be able to claim like our dues, our mileage, if we're working on the road, our food, when we had to buy, new clothing for work and things like that. You used to be able to put those things on your taxes, and you can't really do that anymore. And so, it's like you gave up a lot for a little, because the average American can't afford to pay these people to scour through the tax code and everything else, and find loopholes and everything else to avoid paying taxes, or finding ways around it, and making this donation or that donation so that you pay less. And I know some people like to call that a smart businessman, but especially for somebody who had aspirations and became the United States president, like, I don't think that is a good message to send to future generations. Is, we're gonna promote this person who purposely ripped off the same people that he claims to be for. He says, oh, I'm going to be for the working man, when a good portion of his wealth was built by ripping off the working class. As a IBEW member, he had contracts that built his towers that he never paid to IBEW contractors. He talks a hard talk about illegal immigrants, and had used illegal labor to work in his casinos and hotels, and build his buildings and everything else. So, what kind of message does that send? I think, but a lot of people are willing to look past that because of the way that he acted and the things that he said.
And that's the thing. I was like a huge supporter. Like, I was like, all right, he's gonna make some changes. But then when you look at it more, and I've looked at it a lot lately, and it's just more of the same.
Right.
The only thing that he had going for him was he was an outsider, and in the fact that he hasn't been in office his entire life.
So I don't mean to cut you off, but
yeah.
is he an outsider? Because you can look back at his history, and he's going to the same social gatherings, the same dinners, the same different things as the Clintons, and these other political elites and things like that. Like, he built his empire in New York City. He's although he hadn't spent his entire career in politics, he spent his entire life rubbing elbows, attending the events, speaking with, hanging out with those same people. So yeah, he wasn't there, but he's conversing with them. Those are his friends. Those are the people that he's around. These are the same people that are helping him. These are the people that he's encouraging to make policies that benefit him and help him and his family, and the things that he was trying to do as well.
And yeah, I can see that. And I guess my biggest thing was that coming into it, just I didn't like what the Democrats were trying to sell.
Right.
And I guess from the perspective, a lot of my family is conservative, so I think that's what, more or less, that's what shapes you.
Right.
Until you get older and you actually look at it. When we were kids, we thought, hey, the government just gives us free stuff. We don't know. We didn't know we were going to have to pay for that.
Right.
By the time we were old enough to collect Social Security, there ain't going to be nothing there.
Yeah, we'll be lucky.
But it just sounded good.
Right.
So a lot of people just bought into it. And, there's Colts on both sides that are diehard Trump supporter. I just want to be able to do what I want to do and to be left alone.
Right, absolutely.
I don't have a problem paying taxes. I pay in every year. I make too much money, apparently.
Right.
I don't feel like I make too much money. I remember my
Definitely don't make as much as they make.
Yeah, I remember growing up, my uncle asked me one time, he said, well, when are you going to be satisfied? How much money do you have to make to be satisfied? And I was like, oh, $100,000. I don't think I'd ever need anything else. And he was like, no, you never set limits.
Yeah.
You just, but, you know.
I remember when I was younger, like, you used to think that if you won $1 million, like, you were set, man. Like, if I could just get $1 million, I'm golden. But I don't know if it's dumb thinking as a kid or if the bar has really moved that much, but it's like, you buy a house and you buy a nice car, and if you wanted to start your own business or whatever it is that you decide to do, like, $1 million doesn't really go that far at all. A nice house, a nice car, man, you're looking at close to half of it right there.
Yeah. I mean, I have over $100,000 cars in the driveway. Did I ever think I'd be at that point in my life? No. And I think that's the one good side of America is you can work and you own your stuff. Some of these communist countries where you're paying 60% of your income or you get paid barely anything because you don't even get to see what they're taking out.
Right.
And, it's just amazing to me how far we've come and how some of these policies they're pushing will take us closer to communism.
Right.
I mean, regardless of what side you're on, as Americans, you should be able to see that. We're too busy fighting with each other to be paying attention to what's going on. All these bills that are being passed in the middle of the night, we don't even know about. And no one's ever going to see it because you're not going to see it on CNN.
Right.
You're not going to see it on Fox anyways. They're all getting money from these special interests too.
Right.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think another thing that's crazy is like, when President Biden took office, we have a Democratic Senate, we have a Democrat House. Pretty much the only thing that he wouldn't have working in his favor right now would be the Supreme Court. But to pass laws, that doesn't really require the Supreme Court very much. So it's like you made all these promises and you had pretty much everything that you could need or want to do whatever it is that you need to get done. And you're not getting it done, whether that be good, bad, whatever it might be. Excuse me. I think that just goes to show really it's kind of just a facade really. It's like what other stars do you need to align to get done what it is that you say that you're wanting to or needing to get done to get elected? Is to go through all that and to make all those promises and come up empty on pretty much all of it when you've had everything you needed to do it just blows my mind, which luckily I think it's worked out for us because I don't agree with a lot of the extremist left policies of this some of the crazy stuff that they want to do and some of the things that they're focused on, but the inaction is just really a little bit mind-boggling to me because it's everything that you could have needed pretty much, and you couldn't get it done.
Yeah, and that always gets me. Like everyone, like the Republicans had majority and everything for a little bit, and they didn't pass anything either.
Right.
And right now, it just seems like Republicans are just like, no, hold off, slow down. And the Democrats are just full steam ahead trying to pass stuff. I mean, it could get a lot worse. But luckily, everyone's just kind of, I don't know what's going on right now, but, it's just so crazy and that nobody's paying attention. And I know there's so much information out there, it's hard to find. And
right.
You can fall in an echo chamber
Well,
quick.
yeah, and the other thing is you have, like you were saying, is you have no idea what the truth actually is because you turn on, depending on what you believe and what news you turn on is you're never going to, you don't know what the actual truth is. You're either going to get the left spin of it or the right spin of it. And, it's neither of those are allowing us to actually take what the situation is and, decide what's best and what we believe because everything is is basically reality TV now. If you're on watching CNN or whatever, you're getting a reality TV version of making the right look bad and seem like assholes. And if you turn on Fox News, you're getting the right spin of making the left look like extreme, crazy liberals that only care about transgender bathrooms or whatever, whatever it might be that week. I don't know.
Yeah,
that seems to be a big one that a lot of people point to, which is
then you get all the buzzwords like white supremacists, everything like Kyle Rittenhouse was a white supremacist. Well, how? And that you ask,
he killed 3 white guys. It's like, what?
How dare him? And
I think he did get lucky, and a couple of the people that died are kind of scumbags. So, I don't. It's kind of messed up to say. I mean, people have called me a fucked up person anyway, but I think if you're gonna rape and molest kids, you're probably the lowest of the low, and you probably deserve that outcome. But that's just my opinion.
It's just the way. Like I know me and Cody, we deal with things the same way, death and stuff. I mean, I make a joke out of pretty much everything because that's how I cope with things.
Yeah, same way, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we work together. There's some stuff we just won't get into, but like, New York's bail reform. Did you hear about that guy in Johnson City? He was having sexual contact with an underage girl, and the prosecutor said you should probably get bail and remand him. They let him out on his own recognizance the next day.
He did the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I don't know. That blows my mind, dude. I can't believe that. Like it's crazy to me that you could like assault your wife or beat your kids or touch kids or whatever, and you're just gonna like, I mean, I get it, innocent until proven guilty, but I mean, if a cop shows up to your house and you have marks all over your hands and he sees your wife and you've just caved her face in, like I don't think it's a good idea that you go home that day.
They've been running an investigation, and they have the text messages that he was messaging this girl, and you're good to go, buddy.
Yeah, like you probably shouldn't go home that day. You probably shouldn't go home the next day. You should probably sit down and wait till you see a judge, and we can make a good, educated decision on what it is. I mean, there's definitely aspects to it that I can understand. Like, if you're walking down the street or whatever and you have a grandma Coke or something in your pocket, weed's not quite as bad. I mean, for a long time, there's been people getting locked up for weed, which I think is just really, 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 really stupid. But, it's not, at least not in New York. I think it's still pretty restricted in PA. But, if even pretty much any drug, man, like a lot of the reasons that these people are using these drugs is because they're trying to find ways to cope with some of the things that we've talked about so far. And so if you're doing that and you're not hurting anybody, I don't think a cop ripping you off the street and making you miss work and everything else, like I don't think that that's right, and that you should have to sit in jail until you can come up with whatever amount of money that they decide and see fit. But if you're gonna beat your wife or your kids or touch a kid or whatever, anything along those lines, like there's some pretty crazy things in that bail reform that you can be out the same day. And it's just like, why would we let those people out the same day and give them the chance to run or abduct these kids or go home? And instead of just, you were mad before, so you punched your wife in the eye, but now she called the cops and you went and you got arrested, and now you got a criminal charge pending against you, but you're out, and now you're even madder because you were mad before, and now you went to jail and you're going to have to worry about the outcome of that.
That's the thing.
Go ahead. Go home. Yeah, that's a good idea.
They're not even held long enough to get a restraining order or anything.
Yeah, it's.
And I'm right there with you with the victimless crimes with marijuana, pretty much anything. Okay, unless you're giving it to a kid, and then I think there
yeah.
should be some harsh penalties
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
But if you want, I understand people have problems. I watch so many of my family members go through. I've had family members die, and then we have a service for him, and then they show up high
Right.
to his service because they were friends and all, and like, come on, you just watched him die from it, and
Right.
you, like, I understand, and you should be able to do whatever you want.
Right.
That's the government shouldn't interfere.
As long
with
as
you.
as long as you're not harming other people,
Exactly.
their person, their property, things like that. I mean, that's kind of a libertarian idea that I think we both share. That as long as you're not harming me or my property and things like that, you're kind of free to do what you want to do. For for the most part, like you said, if it comes with selling drugs to kids or things like that, obviously it's going to be a no-go because they're not capable of making informed decisions. I don't think that's part of why you're a kid. But if you're an adult and the way that you're coping with that point of your life is you want to go out and party and have fun and you want to use whatever to go along with that, it's it's probably not the best choice or whatever, but there's a lot of bad choices that we allow people to make every day and we don't throw them in jail for it.
Yeah, and a lot of these people, they can only get help if they want help themselves. Because I've been down that road, and you send these people to jail, and they're just meeting more people, more connections.
Exactly. Yeah, it gives them more connections. When, also it's like sending them to jail, and forcing them to try and come down off the drugs and sober up in there is like it's not creating a good environment for these people, and it's not encouraging an encouraging environment to try and help these people get clean and get back to their family. If anything, I'm pretty sure it's been proven to have the total opposite effects compared to it's like if I think you're starting to see it out in I believe it's like Washington and states like that are starting to decriminalize some of these drugs and everything, and you're allowed to have like a so many day supply or whatever, and even if they catch you with it, instead of sending you to jail, they're going to try and get you into some some sort of treatment or whatever that may be, which also I think a lot of that comes back to kind of what we were talking about before with the insurance, is like how many of these people would go to treatment if they thought that it was something that they could potentially afford, or their family wouldn't have to spend the rest of their life in debt or work crazy astronomical amounts in order just to try and pay for these people to get help.
Comes right back to the mental health, like you were saying.
Yeah, it's just we're totally avoiding the root causes of these problems, and the solutions that we're coming up with aren't really solutions at all. It's just, if anything, it's making it worse, man.
Slap a Band-Aid on it and hope it gets better in the future.
Yeah, it's like
down the road.
Yeah, like I just said, if you pull these people off the streets and now they're spending, days in jail or whatever, you miss 3 days of work on a no-call, no-show because you went to jail, you don't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
So now you come home, you're a drug addict who now has no job, and if you have a house and a car or whatever else, now you're looking at losing your house and losing your car and everything else. Like your first thought isn't going to be like, oh, how am I gonna what am I gonna do? A lot of people, their first thought is going to be like, all right, well, I'm already down this far, I might as well go get high and forget about it.
Yeah. And I think we probably both know people who that's happened to. They see, where else do we go from here? Might as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's points in my life. I mean, you've seen me at some of my highest and some of my lowest. I mean, I used to go out and party and get fucked up, darn near pretty much every weekend, if not almost every night, even during the week. Like there was points where it was, going out Thursday night, then going out Friday night, then going out Saturday night, and then having Sunday fun day. And then maybe sobering up until next Thursday if the cards fell right. If they didn't fall the right way, then we might just party right on through, who knows? But, obviously not everybody is as fortunate with me as me, and, had people that care about them and love them enough to say, hey man, the way that you're living life is not gonna, it's not gonna lead you to where you want to be, and it's not gonna get you, I know you as a person, and I know the aspirations that you have for yourself, and I know what you want to see yourself, and the way that you're living life right now isn't conducive to getting you there, and it's going to put you it's going to put you way behind if, something goes south in a hurry. So I think that's kind of where I'm fortunate to, like I said life experiences where I can relate to these people, because I made some really dumb decisions, and I was fortunate to, not get caught, and, not put myself or others in serious jeopardy. I wasn't getting fucked up on the weekends and hopping in my car and driving home.
Yeah.
I lived next door. It's a couple blocks away. So I would, I'd walk home, or, I'd take a taxi on, when I was living further away. But, all it takes is one bad decision, and, your entire life can get flipped just like that. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's not because, you do bad things. It's just, you potentially had a momentary lapse in judgment, and you made, one wrong decision, and, now your whole life is totally different. It's sad, because I had somebody close to me that was killed by a drunk driver. So I knew, like, I don't ever want to put somebody else's family in that position and feel the way that I felt and my family felt by getting behind a wheel while I was intoxicated. But, alcohol, one of the things that it does is it can cause you to make some bad decisions sometimes. And, just that one time you're a little too weak and decide to drive home, and you're a little too drunk, and, a kid's ball bounces out into the street, or somebody's crossing the road and you don't see them, or, whatever that might be. And now, you've taken somebody's life and totally flipped not only your world, but their, everybody who's close to them. You flip their world upside down. So, I don't know. It's just, it's crazy. I think that if everybody was willing to take a little bit more time to realize that everybody is human and everybody makes mistakes. Like, even, I don't care if you are the best person on the planet, that, you go to church every Sunday and everything else, like, whatever it is, you're going to do something at some point that's going to, it's going to cause you to fall short. And, I don't know if you're religious or not, but I think that everybody could use a good dose of Jesus and God in their lives, and maybe start to get some of the humanity back into the planet, and kind of treating everybody as, human again, and realizing that we all make mistakes. We all fall short of the glory of God. And, there's a lot of things that we can do, and we have, we all have different vices, whether it be shopping on Amazon, or going to the mall, or, doing drugs, or smoking cigarettes, or drinking liquor, or doing coke, or, whatever it is. Everybody has some sort of something that they're using to deal with the everyday struggle of the human condition. And I think a lot of people forget that, and a lot of people are thinking that, what I'm doing isn't as bad as what so and so is doing. If your vice is shopping, it's really easy to point to the drug addict or the alcoholic or whatever and say the way they're living is wrong. But you got $100,000 in credit card debt because you won't stop getting on Amazon or whatever. it's pretty clearly written in the Bible that like I said, we all fall short. We all have, we're all sinners, man. We all got our own things that we're dealing with, and at the end of the day, the only person that gets to be the judge is God and Jesus. So I think, like I said, I think everybody could stand a little dose of humanity when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm not super religious. I do believe there's something out there. I guess a lot of it now, you look at religion and it comes down to these super churches, and you just look at it and it's like they're just trying to make money off you, and it's just like with the left and right, there's good and bad on each side, and it's easy to look at those and be like, oh, it's all sham, but at the same time, you gotta believe in something,
right?
Even if it's nothing at all, but at the same time, like you said, we're humans, we all make mistakes. And it's just, you got to take responsibility for it.
Right.
And I think the biggest problem in today's day and age is ego. Everyone wants to be the right one.
Right.
And guess what? We all have opinions. We could all be right about something. Two things can be true at one time.
Right.
And it just, nobody wants to take the time and find out, well, how do you feel the way you feel and stuff like that. And it just drives me nuts. And I've always wanted to start a podcast or do YouTube videos, something like that, but it's just like lately it's just like we need to change the culture around it, because we're not the enemy. Just because you believe stuff from the left side and I believe from the right, we can still be friends. Granted, we've been friends a long time,
right?
I mean, the pandemic's torn a lot of people apart.
Oh yeah,
everyone's turned to social media, and you know how it's so vitriolic on there.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's easy to get caught up in that. Even with the absolute best of intentions, it's so easy to get into an argument or a disagreement and things like that. It's social media is definitely, I think it's a big driving factor in dumbing down the culture and kind of making the human experience worse in a way. I think it's really it's taken out a lot of accountability and people saying things, because I can pick up my phone right now and I can make a post and say whatever I want, and it doesn't have to be true. I could get on here right now and I could say the worst things about you imaginable, and I am under absolutely no oath to tell the truth. There's nothing, there's no accountability when it comes to that stuff. And I think a lot of people are also, they forget that they get on there and they read these things and they assume like, oh, they said it must be true. It's like there is no proof. Like you have nothing. I mean, if you do, great, but you're not required to prove that. How many hundreds of thousands of people, if you have a big following, could you spread something that's totally fake to, by the time anybody ever says like, oh, whoa, wait, we have like concrete evidence to prove that is not the case. But at that point, hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of people have already read it, and now they're walking around with that in their brain, and because that's what they believe, they're never going to read that article of the bona fide concrete proof that it's not real.
Damage is already done.
Yeah, it's done and over with. It's like the same thing as like negative review spreads double the rate, if not more, if not faster, is the good things. People always hear the bad things about you more often than they'll hear the good things about you. Yeah, because people like to leave that part out.
How often do you see someone get on Facebook and say, oh, I had a great day today, everything went my way? No, it's, oh, well, my car broke down, and oh, my job, this and that. Yeah. And it's like, tell me something good about yourself, Come on now.
Yeah.
I know your life can't be that bad.
Yeah. Or it's like it's the total opposite is, you get on Instagram and some of these sites and, you have these influencers and models and people that are like, oh, here I am on the beach and drinking this, and really the pictures are from 3 months ago, and everything else, and it's like they like to paint their lives as perfect, and it comes back to like what we were saying before is like, yeah, it looks good for the pictures, but like what they don't say is that their marriage is crumbling.
Yeah.
Or that they're, $100,000 in debt, or, whatever, like I said before, whatever it might be, their kids absolutely hate them. Their kids can't stand to be in the same room as them. It's not right. It's not, I don't think that this was, I don't think that this is ever supposed to be the way that we lived, and the way that we were supposed to treat each other. Like I said, I think the world could use a big dose of love and humanity. And I know you said that you brought up religion. Well, I brought it up originally, and then you said religion as kind of one of the things. And I think that people kind of get that confused with when it comes to creation and God and everything else. Is people religion is a whole nother beast in itself, but really is what it comes down to is your relationship with God. I mean, personally, I don't think he cares what church you go to. I don't think he cares what denomination you're a part of. The thing that he cares about is, are you trying to be a good person? Are you trying to help people when you can? Mm-hmm. Are you trying to love people? Are you trying to be a good husband? Are you trying to be a good father? I mean, there's going to be times where we all fall short. Like I said, I mean, there's times where I feel like I'm a bad dad because I worked all week and I have class 2 nights a week, and then it comes to the weekend and I want to hang out, and I want to come and do a podcast, or I want to hang out and play a PS5, PS4, PS5, yeah. Or whatever it is that whatever. And it's so easy to let the negative thoughts seep in, and it's just not, it's not supposed to be like that, because as long as the way that I think, and I mean some of the things that the Bible and Jesus teaches us is that if we have good hearts and we keep him in our heart, and we try to do the right things, and we try and do good things, that even if our time on the earth is a struggle, when it comes time, when our number is called, that the whatever comes next, whatever that might be. I mean, everybody has different beliefs, but if you do believe in God and Jesus, that he'll have better things in store for you when you get to heaven, and you're standing there, and you're being judged for the way that you live. And I don't think the way that social media has tricked us into living is the key to paradise. Whatever it is that you do believe in. That's where I'm at. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, you've known me through some of my best times, some of my lowest times, and I know that some of the things that I've been through, and some of the things that I've done, I think has really, it's really given me a good perspective. And I just feel like that the only way that that I could make it this far and still have breath in my lungs is because there's something greater than me. There's a reason that I'm still here. Maybe that reason is because if this conversation that we have, if one person watches this and is able to change the way that they treat somebody, or the things that they can do, or the next time that they run into somebody that doesn't share the same views as them, if this could just encourage them to give a little grace, give a little love, man. Just try and understand, try and walk in somebody else's shoes, that, there's the world could be so much better, man. And with Christmas coming up, I know a lot of people, another thing that has to do with religion is a lot of people try and make it, it seems a lot like with the mega churches and stuff like that it is a lot about money and things like that. And one of the things, actually last night, I went and there's a show called The Chosen, and they did a Christmas special. So The Chosen is about the life of Jesus and how he called some of his disciples and everything like that. And the Christmas special was about the birth of Jesus. So with Christmas coming up, I think a lot of people forget about what Christmas is really about. A lot of people think Santa and presents and things like that, but the reason that we celebrate Christmas is because that was the day that the Savior was born. Like he came into the world, and the thing that it really put into perspective for me is that, like, when you think of, manger for a crib or whatever, you don't really understand exactly what it was. But Jesus was born in a barn, like animal feces and hay, and like a manger is a feeding trough for animals. So he came in as like the lowest of low, to be one of us, to be with us, to show us and teach us and guide us and lead us, and show that the human condition doesn't have to be this way, that religion is corrupt, the governments are corrupt. The thing that can change is people. We can change our hearts. We can make a conscious decision to be better, to be different, to be loving, to be more like him, and to lead ourselves and others out of darkness. We don't have to be sinners. We don't have to live by the world standards of, just because you use drugs, you're a piece of crap, or just because you had to have sex with men that you don't want to have sex with in order to provide a good living for your kids, or even if you have racked up some debt and whatever, and whatever your situation might be, that just because you've done that, you're not a bad person. You can, the human condition, it doesn't have to be forever, and life doesn't always have to be this way. And if you accept Jesus into your heart, man, you can really have better for yourself in the future. And, you can really give a lot of love and compassion and understanding, and, help other people into the world. And when the time's up, and you're whatever happens, which I just happen to believe that there's going to come a judgment, and I'm going to have to stand up there and whether it be say why I get in, or whatever it is, I just want to try and do the right thing, and be better than what I was.
Yeah.
And try and show other people that there is a better way and better things that we can do to try and move on from where we're at right now, which in my opinion is darkness.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's what the country is founded on, freedom of religion. It doesn't really matter what you believe in, just that you believe in something.
In God we trust.
Yeah.
It's written. It's printed on all our money and everything.
Exactly. And the Constitution, they're God-given rights and shall not be infringed. And I think once we start getting even a little piece of that, right away, it's just gonna snowball.
Oh yeah.
These people up top, they don't care.
No, they're. I mean, if you really believe some of the things that are out there, like, I don't know how deep you get with conspiracy theories and things like that. I mean, a lot of people say that they're.
I got a neighbor. Let's just say that.
They say that they're, Satan worshipers or whatever, and I mean, I think that they're. If you look hard enough, you can find proof for pretty much anything.
Oh yeah, if you're looking for it, you'll find proof.
Yeah, I mean, and like we said, yeah, there are obviously it's not hard to find stories of corrupt religious leaders and bad churches and everything like that. But I think that they have done such a good job at trying to mask the Bible and God and Jesus with the curtain of religion and the things that go along with that, because if people did really start to understand what it was about, is it would cause an entire shift in the way that we live and the way that we do life. And the system that they have built, they're winning right now, and if we were to really experience some of these things, it would mean that we would win and light would win. And right now the darkness is winning, as far as I'm concerned. And I would just like to encourage people, because I mean, I do construction now, and I talk to people, and I know people have had bad religious experiences, and it's easy, like I said, it's easy to find the preacher, the pastors and pope, whatever the religious person might be, that are touching kids and stealing money and everything like that. But that's not like it. Read the New Testament, man. And Jesus his parables, I mean, he talked about the corruptedness of the religious leaders. Like, it was the shepherds and the sick and the needy that received him. It wasn't, there were prophets that predicted his birth long before, hundreds, thousands of years before he came. And the people that are supposedly the most religious and the people who should have been the most receptive of him denied him and crucified him. They literally killed him. But I mean, in a way, it worked out for us, because we're the people that he came to save. He bled for us so that we could be forgiven of our sins, and that we could have life after death if we believe in him. And look at his disciples, like I said, were prostitutes and people who struggled with all different things. And the people that he healed, sick and diseased and mentally disturbed and everything else, like I said, the people that need it the most. And I think that our country is definitely in need of that. And part of the way that we could find the mental help that we need is not just through medication alone, because I don't think that'll solve the issue. We have to get back down to the root cause of what it is. And it's because we've been led astray, and we've been taught to worship human things, material things, instead of others, and the Lord himself. So I just wanted to bring that up. I know you didn't really sign up for that aspect of it, but with Christmas coming up, and I don't know, man, lately I just feel like that's what I've been called to do, because I know where I've been. I know what I've seen, and there's some things that I don't think can be explained. And I think a lot of people like to say, I don't necessarily believe in God, but I believe that there's a higher power. And it's I don't like you if you think about it enough, it's like our human mind is no matter how smart you are, is incapable of understanding it because we're not God. We were never meant to be God. We're not meant to understand it. The only person who can understand it is the Creator, which is God. You know, I don't know. I don't know why people don't like to use the word God. I don't know if it's because of religion or, you know, the things that have come along with it. And I know that also people kind of get confused with God and Jesus and everything. And so God is the creator and Jesus is the son, and the son is the savior, which is Jesus.
I think a lot of people don't like to get in religion because it becomes taboo almost now, because you hear all this in the news about this and that, and you know, it's all. And I think the biggest thing, anyone, even if you're not in the religion camp or you don't believe in religion, the biggest part about any of that is there's more power in the people than there is of the governing.
Right.
So I think the biggest thing is we all need to come together and stand behind your beliefs, if not religious, it just what the founding fathers wanted us to be and do, you know.
I mean, I think that like that's a good thought for us as Americans, but I mean, America isn't the only one going through this. Like we're,
True.
I mean, the things that are going on are planet wide. You know, we're seeing natural disasters all across the planet. You know, we're seeing corrupt governments all across the planet. You know, we're seeing bad things happen all across the planet. And, you know, just because I was fortunate to be born here in America, which is considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest country to ever, you know, be, you know, just because I was fortunate enough to be born here, doesn't mean that I think that I am more important or my life matters more than somebody who lives on the other side of the planet from me, you know, just because of the location of where I was born. Like, you know, they're still human there, man.
Yeah.
Like there's still human. Like we just spent a 20 years fighting a war on the opposite side of the country. And, you know, I think that's another thing that we didn't really touch on is, you know, it's easy to think of these people as like terrorists or, you know, a derogatory term. People call them towel heads and things like that because obviously they look different and think different and, you know, follow differently than we do. But imagine if pretty much your entire life this country was under war and somebody from a different country, like you watch somebody from a different country shoot your dad or you know, blow up your uncle, things like that. Like you're gonna feel some type of way about those people that are in your country, you know. And I think that a lot of that comes back to about, you know, what this, you know, what America is and you know where we're at as America. And obviously people like you and I aren't making the decision on whether or not we go to war, but I mean, even, you know, what did we accomplish over there? What did we accomplish in that 20 years?
No, what we spent $2 trillion.
Some crazy. I would be surprised if it was only $2 trillion. I would think that it was probably even more than that. If
Halliburton got rich.
Yeah. Oh,
Blackwater.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, at one point they were charging like multiple hundreds of dollars to do a single load of laundry.
Yeah, that's insane.
Must be nice to have a friend that's the president, you know.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy how they can benefit like that. And you know how many of Bush's friends got rich off that and got, you know, these different government contracts that are hundreds of miles away on the opposite side of the country. We're just going to ship these people over there and then steal their resources and everything else.
Which I'm sure it's every president,
yeah.
Democrat, Republican.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at all the stuff that's came out about, I mean, Biden and his kid and everything like that.
And his brother was a military contractor over there.
The things that they did in Ukraine and things like that, you know, he was getting paid a lot of money just because he was the vice president's son.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't,
he flew on Air Force Two to China.
Yeah, it's not because he was a smart, brilliant businessman. It's because he had influence with the vice president, who had influence with the president to try and make policies and send them money and do things in their favor.
Now, that just makes me want to ask, because I've read a poll that said if people knew about the Hunter Biden laptop store, they would have changed their mind. Would that have, if you knew what was actually in it when they canceled it?
So,
or would it have made you think more, at least?
So, I always come back to the fact that, just first and foremost, I think the fact that Biden and Trump were the two best choices that we could come up with to be the leader of the country right there is a horrible tragedy in itself. But the way that I feel is the things that Trump has said and done, and, you know, like I said, this is speaking strictly from what I believe, the organizations that I believe in, the things that I'm a part of, and, you know, how I feel as a human being about what's morally right and wrong. I just feel like Trump is morally disturbed, and I have a hard time supporting that. And obviously I don't think Joe Biden is significantly better, but I think when it comes down to at least being a somewhat morally decent family person, you know, I think he cares more about people than Trump does. And I know a lot of people think that you know, he's a smart businessman and that this country should be run like a business. I don't think that the country should be run like a business, so I don't think that putting a good business person in the White House is the best option. Especially because I don't even think that he's a good businessman. He's just a con artist. But that's, like I said, that's strictly my personal beliefs. And, you know, now that I'm married and I have a daughter, and, you know, I think that the president should be somebody that, you know, you should look up to. And obviously Biden is not that guy either. But I had at least higher hopes for him than, you know, what has happened so far.
And the biggest thing I took away from that whole election was, you know, there was a lot of fighting back and forth over, you know, I'm right, no, I'm right, all that. But so many people actually started paying attention, and maybe they didn't dig deep enough. But I think now a lot more people are waking up to what's going on around us. It's just now we have to get on the same page where, look, you know, Trump wasn't the hero everyone says he is.
Right.
And, you know, at some point, I believe, yeah, he's doing good. I appreciate what he's doing. But at the same time, like you said, you know, there's a business owner in Waverly. He used to do contracting, and he actually worked at one of Trump's buildings, and they never got paid. And then they went to court, and they ended up settling like 2 cents on the dollar.
Yeah,
like
I was about to say that surprised me, because normally is what he does is he tries and keeps prolonging it and pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back until these people literally can't afford to fight it anymore. You know, he just tries to bankrupt you to the point, because he has these lawyers and everything else on his payroll. He can afford to pay them for, you know, years and years and years on end, because he's gonna anyway. It doesn't make a difference to him compared to most of these, you know, most of the businesses and things like that he tries to rip off. They can't afford to do that, man. You know, they can fight for a little while, but you only got so much money. You only got so much, You only got so much fight in you before you realize that you're fighting a losing battle. Even if you do run the potential to win, if you can never get in front of somebody to hear your case, how are you going to win?
Yeah.
So that's like I said, that's what it comes to. I think being morally bankrupt. And I think that personally holds a lot more weight for me than just strictly having a good economy and low gas prices and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't think Biden is a significantly better choice either, but I did think, and I still do believe, as far as being a morally good person, that he is still the better option. Like, is his son a scumbag? Yeah, probably. Was he doing some fucked up shady shit? Yeah, probably. Certainly does look that way, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That's how I feel on it. But I gotta ask you, I know a lot of people are saying they would like to see Trump run again in the next election cycle. How would you like to see the Republican Party move forward at this point? Do you want to see him run again? Or?
I think him running would be the worst thing the Republican Party could do.
Yeah.
Because, even if you did see everything that he did, because there's lots of stuff that was hidden you didn't see. I'm
Right.
sure it's the same with Biden now. But, all the impeachment investigations, Ukraine and all that ended up being fake, but everyone hates him. And I don't think that Biden was elected. I think that Trump was anti-elected.
Right.
And because Biden didn't really have a solid platform, he's a family man, which is,
and he was just one of the more moderate candidates of the Democrat Party, and he had been at it long enough that he could sway the people in the middle to kind of feel like they're on a little bit more stable ground. Because, I mean, I know a lot of the right doesn't really like Obama, but he is one of the more I don't want to say successful. He's one of the more popular Democratic presidents when it comes to it. So the fact that Biden was a part of his campaign, being that he was his vice president or whatever, I think that held a lot of merit to people that probably wouldn't have voted for him otherwise.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'd honestly like to see Ron DeSantis. What he's doing in Florida is amazing, and I mean, you can look at numbers and data all day. Obviously, they're going to dig up everything they can. That's all politics is nowadays, is digging up as much as you can on the other person. But I honestly think he's doing a great job down there. I mean, they have lower COVID rates than most of the big blue cities, if you want to take it that way, that are pushing all these mandates. I mean, New York's doing the indoor mask and vaccine and all that.
Yeah, Florida pretty much said, well, you do what you want to do, and we'll...
Yep. And I watched a couple of guys on YouTube out of Florida, and a couple of them got COVID, and they said, yeah, it sucked, but we're still here, and they just go out and do whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, like I said in the beginning, unless somebody that you really care about is in a high risk category, or you yourself are in a high risk category as far as everybody else, I think it kind of should be more of a free choice. I liked Pete Buttigieg. He ran for a little while. He dropped out a little bit after the Iowa caucuses or whatever. But he
the Secretary of Transportation.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Harvard that he went to. He has served in the military. He's very smart. Well articulate, but I know a lot of people are kind of put off by the fact that he is gay. So I know that hurts him some, but he is pretty smart, pretty good background that I think could potentially do a lot of good for the country. But like I said, it's still just astonishing to me that some of these people that we decide to put in the most influential seat in this country are, these are some of the candidates that we come up with.
I obviously don't like Biden, but I can't believe that they put him in. His mental capacity. I mean, I hate to say that because it sounds like, oh, I'm just on the right wing talking points,
Right.
but there's something going on there.
Yeah, he does definitely. There are times that he does definitely struggle to get through sentences, and it is a little alarming sometimes. I mean, he's had a stuttering issue, but I know that that's what a lot of people like to use to cover it up, but I don't think that's the case, man. Like, you start getting to that age, and you start losing some of that, functional ability, and that's why, that's. I think that we need to see some younger faces, some more morally stout candidates, some people with some, maybe some vigor that could, at least be relatable to the other side.
Yeah.
It seems a lot of what you see in the media now, and it's also partially due to the way that the media paints it is, you see a lot of people on the extreme right, and you see a lot of people on the extreme left. But I think when it comes down to it, it's the average decent human American is gonna fall somewhere in the middle. They're not gonna align with all right policies, and they're not gonna align with all left policies.
That's why when they do these polls, it's weighted heavily towards the undecided, because those are the people, I mean, everyone's not crazy like I said. Like, even coming into this, I was like, all right, well, Troy's probably one of those guys. He wants the government to mandate these vaccines and stuff, and that was just me in my own head. If we would have never had this conversation, that's what I would have thought. And everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I mean, I might think you're wrong, but
right, yeah, that doesn't mean I think that you're a bad person.
Yeah.
I think so. Part of the problem is the fact that the federal government has gotten so big, and it's almost too big for its own good, but also at the same time, there's some things that we do need it for. I think that if the federal government were to cease to exist tomorrow, that puts a lot of people in some pretty bad positions. I know that there are, obviously there are people that abuse the system, and they always have, and they probably always will. But there are also people that, that they need the food stamps, or they need the Medicare, and the Medicaid, and the social programs that America does deploy to help people throughout the country. Now, does that mean that I don't think that some changes could stand to be made in those programs? No, I don't. I think that we could definitely see some proof that some of these people that are collecting all of this government assistance are actually making some sort of effort to go out and get a job in situations where it's practical. And there's also situations where there's people who actually need the help and the assistance, and they can't get it because of the way that these programs are set up. Like there's people where if you come on a hard time and you lose your job tomorrow, or Brittany loses her job tomorrow, or whatever, you might need some help for a month or 2 or 3, or until you can get back on your feet. And you've paid a lot of money into these programs, but you and Brittany, you both make out pretty, you guys both make pretty decent money, and there's a good chance that if you were to go and try and get some of these programs tomorrow, they would say, no, sorry, your spouse still makes too much money. And it's like, I'm not asking for this forever. I'm just, I need a little something now, just to hold me over until, I got these job interviews set up, and I got this set up, but I'm going to come up a little short to make my truck payment, but I got to make my truck payment if I'm going to get back out to work.
Yeah.
But, instead, these people are getting denied, and then you have these people that have lived on these programs pretty much their entire adult life because their parents, you know, their mother or father or somebody in their family showed them, if you just have six kids, that, you know, the government will just say, it's cheaper for us to keep you at home than to pay for child care for 6 kids and food stamps and everything else. So, you know, there's definitely changes that we could stand to make, but you know, there's good and bad with it, with, you know, that sure. same as everything else. So
yeah, and a lot of it comes down, I mean, I pay a lot in taxes, and I know that if anything was to happen to me, I wouldn't be able to get help,
right?
Because the wife would still make more than what we could, especially without a kid. And you know, even we're trying to have a kid, okay? Right. You know how expensive it is to go fertility tests and stuff like that? That's super expensive.
Yeah.
And you know how much that insurance covers?
Probably not much.
0. So.
Yeah, one of the guys that I was working with, he's going through the same thing right now, and he got fortunate because his wife has pretty good insurance, and part of what our insurance does is it allows you. So we have, it's kind of like a flex account, kind of, but you know, we have to have, like, so we get reimbursed basically. So okay. we pay like our co-pays and you know, our medical expenses out of whatever insurance doesn't cover. We pay out of pocket, and then we have an account that we submit the receipts and we can get reimbursed on. So he's fortunate that you know, he's able to work and that account builds up and doesn't have his premiums coming out of it because he's on his wife's insurance. So then he can use some of that money so that they can try and get those fertility treatments and things of that nature. And you know, not everybody is that fortunate. So
yeah, we do have a program, but the closest clinic, I think, it's somewhere down below Scranton. So it's a drive, and
right.
you know,
it means missing time at work.
Exactly.
And, you know, missing money in your paycheck.
And luckily, I mean, I'm sure you're saying if you needed a day off, you just tell them and you can get the day off.
Right.
That's the way I am too. I just, you know, shoot out a text in the morning and say, hey, I can't make it to work today.
Right.
You know, make it up later this week or take a vacation day, whatever you need to do.
Right.
But, you know,
yeah,
it still sucks.
Yeah, not everybody is quite that fortunate, which is sad, man. It's sad that you would have to kind of make some of those decisions that, you know, a lot of people, you know, they wouldn't be able to afford to miss a day of work.
The fact that I have the opportunity to make that decision, I'm fortunate.
Right. Yeah, you're fortunate than, you know, a lot of people that, and like I said, I think that's something that kind of gets lost in the day to day. That you know,
you see everyone's success, but never the struggles.
Yeah, and also that we don't realize like how good we really have it. Like there's some people in other countries that are lucky if they get water from a mud puddle today. Yeah, and you know, we can. I drink a sparkling tea that, I mean, I have, what is that? Who knows? But,
yeah.
You know, these people have to maybe risk potentially getting, you know, some sort of potentially fatal virus or something like that just to have some sort of water and nourishment in their system to even stay alive. And, you know, luckily, we don't have to worry about those things. So, you know, we have it pretty good, but it's also easy. It's easy to think about it's easy to point out, like you said before, all the things that are going wrong and bad when we have, you know, bad days.
Yeah. And there's lots of people from the cities, you know, you talk to them and, you know, you say, well, what happens if we run out of water? What happens if there's no bread? Oh, well, we can just go to the store and buy it. Where do you think that comes from? Yeah. And there's people in other countries. The way we live today, we live better than anyone ever did in the past. Even being in poverty in America, you live better. Oh, yeah. I'm not saying it's a good place to be. I've been there. Right. My family didn't grow up rich. Yeah. You know, we struggled sometimes. My mom was on assistance. But, you know, it sucked, but I mean, I still had fairly decent childhood.
Right.
I mean, I was an idiot, but it is what it is. But
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we all make mistakes, and we all make some dumb decisions sometimes, and I think we just have to remember that just a bad day isn't a bad life, and a bad decision isn't a bad person, and even sometimes a bad habit isn't even necessarily a bad person. It's just a couple bad things that things went south. I mean, I can't. I've never met anybody that their life aspiration was to grow up and be a drug addict, or
yeah,
grow up and spend time in jail, or anything like that. So it's not what most people strive for, but sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the bad and let it affect you in ways that could be deemed negative from the outside world. People that don't know how you grew up, and don't know your parents, and don't know your life story, and don't know that you were raped by your dad at 5 years old, or there's like I said, there's all sorts of bad people and bad situations and bad things that people are trying to overcome. And if we could just all be a little nicer, a little more understanding, a little more loving, that I think we could really see a big positive change in the future.
Yeah, and that's what brings us all in. All it takes is a conversation with somebody, and just be open-minded, because everybody has different challenges in their life. I don't know some stuff. You know stuff I don't know. You don't know some stuff that I might know.
Sometimes you don't even know what you don't know until
until you don't know. Yeah, man.
You don't know what you don't know.
I mean, it takes all kinds of people to come together and do something great, and you're limiting yourself by saying, well, I don't want to talk to them because they're a Republican, or they're a Democrat, or and the whole gay thing, I'd care less. I don't care if you're black, gay, Mexican. I don't care.
Yeah,
you're good to me, I'm good to you.
Yeah, people get way too caught up in that stuff. I don't care who you love. I don't care what you got going on below your belt buckle. I don't really care what bathroom you use, man. None of that stuff really it doesn't really matter to me that much. Like, as long as if you're not being a weirdo, a creep, if you're not hurting me, you're not hurting somebody I care about, if you're just living your life and doing what you think is best, then I don't think the majority of people are gonna bother you. But if you start doing bad things and putting yourself in bad situations, and doing in places and doing things you shouldn't be, then obviously it's a different story, and we're gonna have some problems. But for the most part, just you take care of what's yours, I'll take care of what's mine. I wish you the best, you wish me the best. If you need something, let me know. If I can help, I'll help. If not, I'll try and get you to somebody who can, man.
Yeah, and that's what it all comes down to nowadays, man. We just need to stick together. I mean, the pandemic really, no matter if you're afraid of it or not, because I wasn't afraid of it for me.
Right.
I cared about the older people and people that are susceptible to it, my mom, my grandma, all that. But, even like, you knew it was a problem and you were protecting people around you, but, I haven't talked to you in like 2 years now. Really? It's insane. And I know Brittany hasn't really talked to Katie either, and I know they were really close.
Yeah,
so.
It's just, I mean, as you get older and, start, obviously we got a little family now, and, we both work, and, there's a lot of things that have changed and will continue to change, and that's why I appreciate you willing to have me on and let me be your first guest. And I know we've probably kind of been at it a little while here.
Probably 2 hours now.
So
Brittany's probably sitting up there. What the fuck are they doing?
Yeah, I think I got some text from my wife here. So
Yeah, so I hope we can have you back again. I mean, I had a good time. I mean, we just talked for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I just thought about it and looked at my phone. I was like, holy shit, it's been almost 2 hours.
I had a good time too. If I didn't have to go home and study for my test tomorrow, I would. I'd love to stay and
totally
chat.
understand. I hope you come back again. I mean,
I'd love to, dude.
I actually had 3 mics, hopefully 4. I think it'd be cool to just get bigger people and just, it might get a little bit loud and stuff like that. But anyways, that was the podcast. You got anything else you want to say to everyone?
Well, if you're listening, first of all, thank you. I hope that this could really kind of give you a perspective to maybe just even go out, show somebody some love, show some compassion, have a little bit of Christmas spirit, a little Christmas love, give back where you can, and just try not to be a shitty person. That's all I got.
All right, man. Thanks for coming, and thank you all for watching. I hope you liked it, and remember, if you want to come on and just have a talk, feel free to reach out to me. I'm willing to have anyone on who wants to come on and talk, and y'all have a good night, and thanks for watching.